Okay, my pre-birding bird watching years was from 1959 to 1968. So I, began to recognize some of the common birds. Okay, so as I grew up as a child. Now I was born in Kuala Lumpur basically, but I lived for a long time in Brau and Pekan, Pahang. And it was in Pekan that I became increasingly aware about the surroundings and the birds. And I was quite surprised then also because many people knew what the birds were. Okay, just common names. All right, next slide, please. All right, the oriental magpie robin. It was all around. Okay, and people refer to it as magpie. That's a magpie. That's a magpie. You see it, sitting up, flicking its tail, and giving its beautiful plaintive call. That's how I began to recognize. These are not my pictures. I've taken them from the internet. If I were to use my pictures, it would take a long time. I'll explain to you later. Next one. And of course, the common myna. Everybody calls it a myna bird. That's a myna bird. That's a myna bird. You see them around in the housing estates. Okay, and where we live. Very common. Very, very, very common then. Okay. And you began to, and you knew their calls. Next one, please. And of course, the Eurasian tree sparrow, they were everywhere, right? Under the leaves of their roofs, okay? So anybody call it? That's a sparrow. What's that? That's a sparrow. That's a sparrow. So, they gave the general name, okay? So it shows that even then, people had some understanding of birds, okay? Next one, please. And of course, the Asian glossy starling, people call it the blackbird. Oh, they're all blackbirds. They're very common. They're under the eaves of the roofs, and they were perched on the service wires. And of course, if you look, okay, one thing which struck me, okay, was the red iris, okay? And of course, we had no idea that this was a juvenile at that time. So people used to say, this is a male blackbird, it's a female. They just made an assumption. So, it was something that I found very fascinating, the calls. And you see, they used to nest under the roofs, and then you could see the pale blue eggshells, empty shells, on the concrete right underneath the house. Okay? So I assume that time that they laid pale blue eggs. Okay, it's just an assumption, no proof. Okay, next one, please. And of course, the oriental pied hornbill, everybody says it's a hornbill. It's very common in Pekan, the coastal scrub vegetation, calling in the high pitched cackling brays, and almost everywhere, okay? It was part and parcel of Pekan town. Now, another thing, I'll just digress a little bit, okay? Another spectacle of Pekan town. These are flying things, but not birds. They were flying foxes. This was the large flying fox, Pteropus vampirus. Now, every evening, okay, the sunset, you see, the whole sky would just be filled with them. They used to fly at that time from south westerly to north, in a very they used to come, and you see first few coming, then a lot. And the whole sky will be filled with them. And sometimes you see them hanging on service wires, electrocuted, And later on we found out that they used to roost in the peat swamp forests in between Rompin and Nanasi. Nanasi and Rompin, rather. And there was some, of course, a bigger colony roosting in the mangroves of Kuala Pahang. So basically, it was part and parcel. Everybody saw it, and it's Keluang in Bahasa Malay. It's Keluang, not Kelawar. But people call it burung Keluang. Where the burung came from, I don't know. They're not feathered. Okay, but I went back to Pekan recently, just July. I went there on duty. I was there for 5 days, and there was not a single flying fox in the sky. So I've been able to see, right from 1963, right to 1969. I went back in 1974, it was still there. Okay. After that, okay, not a single one. Very sad. Very, very sad. So it shows that, it's both hunting and habitat pressure. But the pied-hornbill, the original pied-hornbill was still around. Okay, next one, please. And of course, the feral rock dove. Okay, everybody calls it pigeon. Okay, you see everywhere in the towns. They will throw grain and they will come in big flocks and they will be there. So it was a very enlightening experience for me as well. Next one, please. And of course, this is a very common word in Japan. You've heard it more often than you. Chomp, chomp. And everybody knew that's a nightjar. That's not an owl, that's a nightjar. So people, to an extent, they knew their birds. Okay? And you could hear that the pre-called birdie, chomp, chomp. And you could see, you can make the outline of the bird sitting on the wire. Okay? So this was a very, so these are the things that introduced me to bird watching. Okay? I became increasingly aware of my surroundings. And I could recognize birds by their calls at that time, Okay, we'll go next one. Now we go to this is how I was when I started off. Okay? Okay. This was in April 1969. This was 1868. It was taken later part of the year, but during that year as well. So next one, please. And then, of course, okay. Many of us, okay, at that time, every household, okay, for their beverages, they definitely used condensed milk, susu chap jinjong, buy them from the shelf. Now, this was the typical label design in the 1960s, okay, the typical label design, and they used to sell them, the shops, and next one, please. And typically the labels were not, they were made of paper, so you could detach them. And let's see what we found on the reverse side of the label. Next one, please. There you are. Okay. Now, Nestle actually, in 1967, Nestle went out on a campaign. They wanted people to be aware of the environment. So they started, okay, 24 most common fish. They started in 1967, fish. I used to look at the labels, memorize the names, Raspora, Calochroma, so it was very nice. Okay? And then after that, they had butterflies, the 24 most common butterflies, and then 24 most common birds. So somehow I was very fascinated. Okay, now these are very, do you know what this is? You know what bird this is? Yes, which one? Springneck green pigeon, yes, exactly. Okay? Yeah, doesn't look like it at all. But, anyway, it was a start to get people interested. Next one, please. And of course, you had the white-breasted kingfisher. Doesn't look at it at all, The bill is supposed to be red. But anyway, the distinguishing feature here, the color, and of course, you had it in 4 different languages. You had English, you had Mandarin, and on this side you had Bahasa Melayu, and then you had Tamil. Okay, so basically it was Tamil was included because they wanted to get the estate kids interested. That's what I was told. And after that, they had a series of mammals. Okay, so. Let's have a look at some of the labels. Okay, next one, please. Yeah, your yellow-vented bulbul doesn't look like it at all in shape. It's so different. Okay, but anyway, you assume this is the vent, definitely. Yellow-vented bulbul, this must be the vent. Okay, so we used to make up words at the time. Okay, you better do your homework, otherwise the teacher will cane you on the vent. So we thought that vent was synonymous with backside, but later on we found out it's undertail covers. Okay, we learned as we went along. Okay. How many cuts did you get on your vent today? So it was a kind of a learning experience for all of us. Okay, but of course we look at it. Okay, it's still recognizable. Okay, when you see the real bird, that is what it is. Next one, please. Does it look like a white brown shama? Completely. No, there's no. Bird number 13 in that series. Next one, please. And then, of course, you have this scarlet back flower blacker. Not too bad, okay? But one thing I learned that I didn't find in other books is it is not welcome in orchards that is known to transfer the seeds of parasites to fruit trees. Is it true, Dr. Q?
It's a big problem, yes.
Exactly. You know, you didn't find it in the other books, but you found it here. Very interesting. So, commonly seen in flocks of 5 or 6 in open country and coastal areas. Okay, but actually it's seen normally, you know, in singly or in pairs, sometimes in trees, but not in large flocks. But you know, probably because, you know, if there's a fruiting, Indian cherry tree, I think it's South American actually, they will come and they will congregate the feet. And so, you know, people assume that they are really very gregarious. Okay, next one please. And then of course, Dr. Kwan, does it look like a Coruscops owl? Okay, so it was one of the owls, okay, they mentioned here. And next one please. And of course, they call it a long-tailed nightjar before. Okay. And of course, you know, we were able to connect it. Next one, please. Now, this was one of the most common, 24 most common birds in Malaysia at that time. Helmeted hornbill. And they had, okay, see, burung terbang mentua, burung torak, burung lilin. There's so many different names, okay. So it was at that time considered a very common bird. Okay. So that I became interested. So I was able to see, you know, some of the birds, pink neck green pigeon, you know, especially, you know, coming in fruity trees, they're very common. So you're able to, this must be it, this must be it. Next one, please. And of course, the crested serpent eagle. Okay. Anyway, these are some of the distinguishing features. Next one, please. And of course, all your 24 labels, you had them put in an album here, you know, and you know, each one had, and you know, the thing is, the shopkeepers are cashing in on this. What they did was, okay, they detached the labels and they showed the picture. So when you went to buy a tin of milk, they charge you for the tin and 5 cents for the picture. So they were cashing in on it. But anyway, you know, I mean, for me it was something very challenging. You know, your parents buy, then you know, you see, okay, what am I going to get? You know, what am I going to get? You know, but you know, it when they displayed it all, it sort of killed the fun. But anyway, it helped me to complete my 24 most common birds. All right, next one, please. All right, now in July 1968, police inspector, my neighbor, gave me a copy of this. He saw I was so interested in birds. He gave me a copy of this. Okay, wow. I said, this is great. Wow. I said, you know. You see on the cover, the blue-throated beater, the white-bellied seagull, the olive-backed sunbird. Wow. I said, let's have a look at the illustrations. And this was very much better than the milk-vein milk. Okay. And you see, this is more like it. When you see, look at it in the field. This is more like it. This is more like it. So what happened was, it was very useful in the sense that I was able to identify the blue-throated beater. Very good. Very good. Blue-throated beater. And of course, this was also common. These two were common. When I went to the coastal area, you know, Serandu, Tanjung Selangor, 16-mile Rompit Beach, this was more common. This was more common inland. So I was able to identify. And we had an American Peace Corps teacher. He was my mother's colleague. And he saw me interested. And he loaned me his binoculars. And he said, you hang on to this, he said. I don't really need them. So I found, oh my goodness, so clear, you know. And the birds were very much, so I had the advantage of having a binoculars at a very young age, FOC, free of charge. And he allowed me to use it. And of course, my father was not too happy about it because he didn't want me holding on to somebody else's property, especially if it was an expensive item. But anyway, I used it, and I used to see the bee-eaters, blue bee-eaters coming, in flocks, and roosting on a tambusu tree, right beside the Palm River. And another thing is seeing the white-bellied seagull coming low over the Palm River. Wow, that was nice. Okay? And of course, when you went to the coast, you saw the Brahmini kite. So things began to become more interesting for me. But at the same time, you see, not everything was illustrated. So they sometimes think, hey, what the heck is this? It's not in the book. But what interestingly is, okay, certain birds, they were just given a mention, a small mention. For example, greater kukal. The lesser kukal is smaller, it has got very dull plumage, and it's got streaks, it's mentioned, really mentions it. So you're able to put a name, okay, to the bird. I'll tell you as you go along. Next one, please. And of course, you had the illustrations and you had the text here. Not too bad, okay. It certainly opened my perspectives. Next one, please. And of course, you know what this is? Anyone? Your Sunda pygmy woodpecker. And this was illustrated well in. I got the book here actually. I will show you. Next one, please. And of course, my first pair of binoculars. I tell you how I got it. My father was not too keen on me holding on to somebody else's property. So in December 1968, he said, okay, well, they don't have good pairs in Kuala Lumpur. We were in Pekan, I said, all right, let's go and shop around in Singapore. So we took 10-hour drive from Pekan to Singapore. And that was a real challenge. We used the coast road, and we had to take 4 ferries. The rivers were not bridged then. And you had these ferries, they had not the one pulled by a tug motorboat, okay? But it was worked on a pulley system, and one person pulled and the other person pulled that way, and that ferry moved. So it could take a limited number of cars. So 4 rivers we had to cross using the ferry. And we drove right down to Rompet and then to Endau, and then of course right down the coast to Mersing, and Mersing we took the inland road to Kluang right down south, Layang, Johor Bahru, and then Singapore. 10 solid hours. And between Pekan, Nasi, and Rompin, real nice peach swamp forests. And you don't see those nowadays, okay? And the Orang Asli community, by the roadside, okay? That was actually 1960. We had made the journey before in 1967, okay? It took as long. And then of course, we held up at Immigration and Customs then, okay? So we went, and my father decided that he would like to buy me a pair that was suitable for bird watching and not for general purpose. So he did his homework, went around, looked around, and went to a shop selling cameras and optical equipment binoculars in a shopping complex in Singapore called CK Tang. Yeah, that's good. Have a look. And we had to look around, and they found this pair, Swift Skipper 7x50. And the cost of that time was $180. Big money at that time, okay? And mind you, at that time, Leica and Zeiss were still in the 4-figure. Leica and Zeiss were still 4-figure. But anyway, for a start, I think you can have this one. It came with a case, okay? And I tried it, I said, man, it's a bit heavy, it's too big. He said, you're growing up. You will find it good. Okay? You're growing up. Okay? After some time when you grow up, everything will fit into place. She got me a pair. And of course, she got a container, airtight container, silica gel. All this, he had done his homework before. How to regenerate silica gel and to keep it inside, minus the cover the case, and how it would last you for a very long time. Of course, suit was British made, and it was very popular among some bird watchers. So the thing I like about this was that at 50 cm, the front glass diameter, it allowed a lot of light in. It was fantastic, a lot of light in. And you could see birds very clearly. And the optics were pretty good, very good. So I had this. Next one, please. Another view of it, okay? But I tell you, it was quite a beast to carry around. It's quite heavy. Okay? Next one, please. Okay, now, what are the birds I identified using 3D? Okay, blue-throated bee-eaten pecan, 1968. Very clear, the features are very clear. But these were taken from someone else's piece on the internet, but anyway, I'm using it for educational purposes, no commercial value. Next one, please. And then, of course, the greater kuka. You know, where we lived, there was secondary forest edge, and in the housing area, the open grassy areas, they used to come out, and feed, So they were, you could see them coming out. And of course, with your book, you're able to put a name to it, greater kuka. Next one, please. And of course, black and red broad-wheeled route in July 1969. Wow, wow, wow. Something, very near my house, a pair was flying. You see the white streak on the wing. Next one. And a copper split barbet, okay? Very difficult to see. What the heck? And one day one came out in the open. And I could identify it using 2D. That's a copper split barbet. And you read the text, you read the text as well. Next one, please. And of course, at Fraser's Hill. I went up to Fraser's Hill in November 1969. And at that time, Ruth, at the gap itself, you needed a sweater. It was quite cold, it was very cold at the gap. Yeah. And it was quite pleasant. The ride from Raub itself, from Raub right up to Fraser's Hill, or the gap, okay? Very scenic, both ways. And actually from, in those days when we drove from Pekan to KL, we, after Karak, okay, the stretch, as you could go from Bentong to KL, Gombak, okay, very, 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 very scenic. And that was where I first heard the hoots of the Siama on that road. So, sadly, okay, it's not the case now, okay. A lot of, it has been slashed, and I see that irresponsible construction companies have used the Gombak Road, the old Gombak Road, as a dumping ground. They dump all the concrete and whatever, down the valley, down the ravine. So, it has sort of altered the landscape, right? So, I was able to use 3D and identify. Next one, please. And of course, the blue-tailed bee-eater, Taring Jaya, December 1969. That time it was called the brown-breasted bee-eater. It was called the brown-breasted bee-eater. Okay. So, okay, this is different, I said, okay, but it's shown in the book. Okay. So, it appeared, you could see that they were slightly, heavier built than the blue-throated. These are the things that you picked up as you went along. At the time you were a rookie, but there are many things you saw. There are many things I saw, brown birds flying here and there in the bush, but I was not able to identify them. 3D had its limits. It was focused on the more common birds. Next one, please. All right. Now, in August 1972, okay, my perspective changed. In December, late in 1971, they have reprinted Glenis's The Birds of the Malay Peninsula, Singapore, and Penang. And it's a very good book, in the sense that it had most of the species recorded here. Okay, it was first published in 1951, and then reprinted, and then for a long period of time it's not available. And then in 71, they reprinted it, and it became available. This is one of the different covers. You have the cover. and illustrated by his wife actually, to be honest. And let's have a look at the plates. There you are, okay? You've got the large Nutava, okay, black and crimson oriole, okay, blue-breasted quail, black-naped monarch, okay, and some of which you have not seen before. Ah, this is a good book, okay? It's a very good book. Let's have a look. And of course, you see, it shows some of the different birds, okay? So, you improve as you went along. Now, at that time, what was available? Now, the books available then, okay, were of course the Robinson and Chasen, those 4 volumes, okay, those are huge, and you couldn't get them in shops, okay. They were available only in certain libraries, okay, and of course, okay, there was Maddock. Maddock did not have illustrations, color illustrations, but you read his text, it gives you very nice anecdotal experiences of him, and you were able to relate this when you saw the birds in the field. Okay, so here, whatever it is, okay, the illustrations and the text are both important. Okay, next one, please. And of course, you see, Glenister had the illustrations and the text was here, and they were very good reading. I'm going to tell you one experience I had, okay, before I got Glenister. Now this was in October 1968. I was, outside, and of course, my house, and all of a sudden I saw this bird flying, slow, leisurely with the weeds, and prominent white wing patches, and it went and sat on top of a dead tree, and was looking around quite some time, and was still then I looked at it, red bill. I looked at 3D, nothing, not even any mention in text. So when I got Glenister, 4 years later, I was able to identify it as dollar bird, broad-billed roller. Then you see the importance of keeping notes, and I wrote the notes down, okay, and that's how I learned. And let me tell you something, I had no mentor, and I was the only one at that time indulged in bird watching. No mentor at home, okay? So no one to discuss. So you had to work doubly hard and write notes and keep this all intact so that you could refer to them later. And it became very interesting. And my father encouraged me. He said, "Go ahead, so long as you're able to manage your time between your schoolwork and your hobby, I think it's fine." And of course, you had a lot of people coming and telling, what's all these, going around the binoculars looking at the things and all that. They're very strange. They're very, very, very strange. People, advised my father, ask him to go and play football. Ask him to do something else. Okay. But my father said, never mind, that's his interest, okay? And of course I had that encouragement, and by consistently keeping my binoculars in that container with sticker gel, I was able to, right up the end, not let a single speck of fungus get on it. So, because many people at that time don't know that, that these were, high humidity was really an enemy of lenses, okay, because in the sense that it allowed, spores to form on the lens and cause damage later on. Next one, please. All right. Now, from 1978 onwards, okay, 1975, Ben King published his classic, okay, A Field Guide to the Birds of Southeast Asia. Very, 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 very good book. And at that time, okay, I was not aware of it. It is only in 1977 I saw it at the bookshop. So I asked my father, okay, can I have one of those? I was thoroughly spoiled brat. And he said, all right, he's going to help you. Yeah, why not? Okay. And I told him, I think, I've been hanging on to this pair of suit for almost 10 years, Don't you think I should graduate to something better? Well, he said, well, you're an upper six. Finish your HSC first, and we'll think about it. And he asked me, what do you like? And I asked, well, if it's not too much to ask, would I have a Leica? And he bought me a 10 by 42. It cost almost 4,000 then. Very expensive. Very expensive. And it's like a new toy, and I loved it very much. And of course, I went to the teacher training college in 1980, and I completed birding, and then the library had lots of books. All the 4 Robinson and Jason books were there in that teacher training college in Lamapata, where the UKM science faculty used to be. And gradually, I met many people, in those days, as a bird watching crazy still, in the 70s. You meet a lot of people, and a lot of them are usually bird watchers from overseas. And I met Dennis Young, and he was taking people around, he had not really officially started his tour company, but how I met him, and he used to tell me very, very good, gave me very, very good pointers. And in 1981, so I saw this guy, I saw this chap, brother, he's coming out of his car. Yeah, he was he was a lecturer in UKM. And thin, tall, just bespectacled, he was carrying a bird book. I just followed this guy. Okay. And when I looked at this, that name, the board having his name on the door, G.W.H. Davidson. I know that name somewhere, right? Dr. Jeffrey Davidson or Mr. Davidson. Yeah, or whatever, come in. And we started, and then he started mentoring, and then he brought me on to David Wells. So we met more people in Selangor, okay? But at that time, the Selangor branch had a bird study group. They called it the bird study group. It was not really cohesive group. It was a loose association of bird watchers. We used to meet occasionally, not official. They didn't have no office bearers, nothing. Okay, but they just called themselves, and then used to go on bird watching trips. So this was very useful. What I did was, because this covered wider area, it covered much of Southeast Asia. So I had to take a highlighter pen, what's found in Malaysia. And then I'm just timing myself, I want to bore you to death. And then I began to learn. As we went off the field, we learned. Now, the thing is, banking, a lot of the plates were in black and white. And some of the illustrations done by Martin Woodcock were at that time quite flat. But I tell you, he has improved a great deal. Flat, completely flat. And if you looked at, let's say, maroon woodpecker, and look at the illustration in it. It doesn't look like it. So what I do, next one please. I started keeping, field notes. If you can see, this is how I kept my field notes. My field notes were in exercise books. And next one please. Right from the 60s, end of the 60s, right to the 70s, I should keep. And I have them all still. Though some have been misplaced, but I have the majority of them. And next one, please. And of course, I recorded actually a case of the nest of the light striped babbler. That time they called it white broad striped babbler, crazy still. There was a nest, and I viewed it through a scope. Made the sketch, and they were too young. A mountain red-bellied squirrel. After the parents had fed, and the parent had left, a mountain red-bellied squirrel just walked up and pinched one of the young and went off. So this is how I kept my notes. Okay. So I found note taking very, very important. Okay. So next one, please. And of course, recording bird songs and calls. Okay. Now these are very important. What I do? I'm sorry, at that time we never took a lot of photographs at that time. Okay, we just birded in the field. Okay, so way back in 1973, okay, I decided, okay, I got one of these Brixton, was 14 years old then, Brixton tape recorder, Japanese make, and it had a built-in condenser microphone, but I bought another external microphone. I plugged it into the jack, and I could record birds. It was not a very powerful microphone, but it was adequate. It was about this long, and you could still record calls. And you could play back and hear the calls, and it became very familiar. So at the end of the recording, I would actually mention the species of the bird and the location and the dates. So that's how I kept this all, and I started listening to them. So of course, these are the variations, And of course, I recorded. Every tape was recorded, okay, labeled. Next one, please. And at that time, I used BASF, okay, C60. I never used the C120, C60. Okay, they were very good. Now, I started recording in 1973, but of course, later on in the 90s, okay, most of the tapes became thoroughly oxidized. So they were not useful, but anyway, I had learned the calls, so, but anyway, things are not meant to last. So basically, when you record, okay, after a while, the tape leaves just small patches of ferrous oxide on the tape head, recording head. So you have to occasionally use alcohol or methylated spirit, the cotton bud, just clean. And of course, okay, that's how I learned. So what happened was, I heard about parabolic reflectors. So my industrial arts teacher, he saw me, and said, okay, I'll make you a parabolic reflector. You just buy me a frying wok. So I bought a small wok, actually, to be honest. He made a hole, and then put a bit of rubber covering, and he could, put the jack in, and then bring the microphone right up. Just beyond the focal point of the wok. It didn't extend beyond. If it extended beyond, then it'll be you won't achieve the purpose. The metal being a good reflector of sound, I found that I had perceptibly better recordings, better sound recordings. And I said, I don't like that handle, very odd, So cut them off for me, sir. He said, no, if you have them, it makes it more portable, easy to carry around. So I had it, I used it, and I had a lot of better recordings. Next one, please. Okay, coming to photographing birds. What's this? Anyone? White-throated fantail, yes. Now, this was scanned from my book, because I didn't have time to scan all of my slides. In fact, whatever I've taken on slides, I send them to the US, where they will scan it for you at 4,000 dpi in JPEG format. Comes out very good. You know, it's only about 24 cents US per slide. We do it here. You know, they charge you about 50 ringgit per slide, and the quality is not so good. Okay, so I'm in the process. So I couldn't show many of my pictures, okay, because they are very high resolution. I have to bring them down. But anyway, I thought I'll just show this first. Okay. So bird photography. Okay, what I just took for the purposes of just getting the shape and getting color. If it's, let's say, a far shot, or if it was you don't see, it's a bit blurred. I mean, who cares? What was important was the shape and the color. So I used to take them into my room, project them on the wall. Okay, project them on the wall, and study them. Then, as you progress, it became increasingly better. So what happened was, you had a good collection, and you complemented Ben King's book. Because there was no, at that time, no book showing photographs of birds. And of course, as we went on, my Leica proved to be very good. Until in 1982, I started working. 1982, I started teaching. My 10 by 42 was pinched from the Gap Rest House by some unknown persons. Well, I just go on to the washroom, and I didn't want water to touch it, so I left it on the seat outside. I was there for a good 5 to 7 minutes. Came back, it's gone. Okay. So I told my father about it. He wasn't mad at all. Well, he said, "There's a learning experience for you, a costly experience." That's well, what are you going to do now? I said, I think I'd better get something, get another one. That's a good idea, he said, but I think since you're working now, you can get it, okay, provided you raise the cash yourself. So at that time, I couldn't afford, so I had to get a Nikon and still keep it going, complemented with my switch. So it was a bad experience, but it taught me to be very careful. Okay, so you would expect somebody to be really mad, 4 years, and you lose it. But I suppose being in education was very. In fact, I wanted to make ornithology a career. So but my parents were dead against it. Said there was little room for such jobs in Malaysia. Then it'd be better and more profitable to be an English teacher. So I had to drop out from the science stream and join the art stream. And you had this literature, Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. My goodness, it's not what I want, is it? Malvolio and his yellow socks. It's not what I want, is it? And of course, when I went to Form 6 to get economics, my goodness, it's not what I want. I don't want all this, But, I sort of went through it and became an English language teacher, but kept this as a hobby. Okay? And so basically, Ben King was very good. Okay? It was the only field guide there. And it was used by everyone. So you go, and then you see the wildlife department people, they will bring. And about Ben King ada, Ben King. Okay. Although, not everything was illustrated in color, but it still served its purpose. And many of us really progressed Ben King. And of course, we read Madoc. So all these books are available in the library. Okay. And of course, okay, as we progressed, okay, we got better, okay, and we went out to the field. Now, one very important thing is, okay, however experienced you are, okay, and how many years you have, You may have 10, 20, 30 years of experience, okay? But you can still learn from a person who has 2 or 3 years experience. There's some things that he may know that you don't know. And another thing is in the field, once you're uncertain of an identification, write down the notes. Do not hazard a guess. Okay? If you hazard a guess, then you become overconfident and you will start misidentifying words. So these are very important things. I remember attending, I was and I still am the teacher advisor, the Nature Club in Sekolah Menengah Sains Alam Syariah, the KPA, the umbrella under the education branch. And I was, Isli Mukri was one of my students. And we had to attend this course in Dhaka. Okay, went there. Okay, and the following morning, okay, I looked at the itinerary for basic bird watching. So I had to just put on my binoculars and just go and just go with the flow. And you know how to use a pair of binoculars? I like the way. Yes. Is it this way? No, you hold it this way. Oh, I see. So, and as you went on, you found that, okay, they knew some things you didn't know yourself. So you learn. Yes. And so you see, it's an experience, okay? And be willing to share, okay? You know that in many places, there is this intense rivalry among groups. Not here. They see something they don't want other people to see, okay? So they won't tell you where it is, okay? But here, for the right reason sometimes, okay, because you have unscrupulous people going around and doing unethical things that happens, okay? And you must also understand that there are also people who trap birds, okay? And especially with the arrival of a lot of immigrant workers from overseas, okay? It has taken a toll. Those days this area used to be very good, very jungle fowl country. Now, very much less. I remember seeing about 33 red jungle fowl on the lawn of Parliament House. Well, this was in 1987. 33 on the lawn of Parliament House. Wow, that's very nice. Okay. And of course, they started trapping, I asked them, nak makan ayam. Nak makan ayam pergi belilah kat pasar. You're not going to get much. No, it's so lean, And how much of protein will you get from the red jungle fowl? But anyway, that was a long and short bit. So, from what I see, okay, I myself gained a lot of experience. Okay, and actually way back in the late 80s, okay, I teamed up with Morton Stranger from Singapore, and with our pictures, and from pictures scholars, we came up with photographic guide, the birds of Peninsula Malaysia in Singapore. Okay. Let's see if I have it here. Hope I do. Yeah, this red book. It's my working copy actually. So we divided the book into the different habitat types, garden and parks, mangroves, open country, freshwater swamps, and the lowland forest, hill forest, okay? And it was popular. It was published in 1993. It's out of print now, okay? Many books have superseded it, which is very good, and of course, I was also the Recent Records Coordinator for Engang. This is one of the first copies, the early copies, 1988. Yes? Photostat sheets bound together, okay? And we had people, day paper writing about swips. So again, okay, it was a very good combination. And I remember when I used to live in Pekan, when I used to live in Rao, you know, I never basically know people. So I wanted to join up with the Selangor branch. So I approached the Selangor branch and said, please send Selangor branch newsletters to me. I get the Pahang branch newsletters, okay? And the administrator here, we can't send you Selangor branch newsletter because you're from Pahang branch. We can't send you. I said, I would like to take part in the bird watching activity. Rao is closer to KL than to Kuantan. No, we can't do that. So I picked up the phone and I spoke to the secretary then, Ilsa Shah. And Ilsa told, you send him that newsletter. And the newsletters came, and I was able to come. In 1984, I met up with Glenda Noramli. She had a talk, June 1984, in the University of Malaya auditorium, and she got everybody interested in birds. She wanted to revive the Selangor branch bird group, and it was revived in 1984, and it still continues today. Okay, Glenda now resides in Perth, Australia. Okay. And we used to have regular meetings. So once you are with a group, then you're able to exchange information. Rather than sit and hibernate alone. So after that, we had asked Dennis Young. Dennis, I think you better work on the field guide to at least Peninsula Malaysia. Oh, I'll try, and sort of drag his feet and said, no, I'm not up to it. And finally, in 1984, the task fell on me. So, 1994. So, from 1994 right up to 1998, I sat down, looked up all my notes, okay, and worked with illustrator Alan Pearson, and we came up with the first field guide to the birds of Peninsula Malaysia and Singapore. We include Singapore as well. And of course, it's in his second edition now. Okay, we hope a due course of time that a more modern field guide would supersede it. Okay, once you have more people and more books and field guides coming up, it only shows that the bird watching community and the nature loving community is growing. Okay, that's what we want. We don't want it to stagnate. And have a book, let's say, it's been around for 50 years, but many parts of the world, okay, in many countries, okay, you've got 2 or 3 or different, or even 5 different field guides. Even Australia, you've got 6 or 7 different field guides to Australia. So I'm glad that things are moving well now. The group is growing, the interest is growing, but there's a lot to do. Okay. So at this moment, okay, let me mention to you, okay, there's a Standard 6 student by the name of Adam Hogg. He resides at Fraser's Hill, and he just completed his UPSR, not PMR, okay, and he's a very good observer. His father runs Stevens Place, which is formerly Buona Vista. Buona Vista Bungalow, the old Girdle Road. Very systematic, learned his birds, and there's going to be a new book which will be, it's already in the printers, it will be out before the end of the year. It's called Naturalist Guide to the Birds of Fraser's Hill and the Highlands of Peninsula Malaysia. So it's basically, there are 3 of them. Jeffrey Davidson, Con Foley, you've heard of Con Foley, right? And Adam Hogg, okay? And he's won, okay, international awards in photography, nature photography. He'd be a very good asset in due course of time. So many people are learning, and if you see now, school kids, they are being increasingly aware of the environment, okay, but correspondingly, okay, the environment is just shrinking, comparing the time when I started out, okay, just shrinking, okay, and most of my rainforest birds, I got them from Ululapa, Pahang, okay. Because at that time, Rao used to be black area, so to speak, okay, because of the communist activities. So we couldn't go to the rainforest, we couldn't go to the forests. Okay, wherever we went, we had to go and be interviewed by special branch. We'd have a permit, 1 month, okay. I still remember rubber tag was going, getting a permit, okay. Menoreh getah dan tidak boleh membuat pekerjaan lain, you know. And my one, memerhati burung dan tidak boleh membuat kerja lain. So you see, I had to time myself, okay, because if I was caught during the curfew time, you know, I could probably, spend the night in the lockup, okay, which of course, I didn't, you know, but, you had security forces, and I still remember, going in, there's to be one Chinese man fishing at home. So greet him, I think, Papa, he'll speak to you in the typical, Pelak way, you know. The typical rural Chinese accent. And of course, I totally forgot about him. And it was many years ago in Bentong. I had to go for the forest. And I saw him coming out of special branch office. He was speaking perfect Malay. Have I seen it before? Were you in Rao in the estate? No, I didn't. So you've actually special branch officer. But you see, generally, special branch officers or special operations, they go only to a special place where it's not accessible to the public. You're not supposed to be in the police station because somebody may recognize you. I recognize him. I mentioned before, you went wrong to Command, right? No. Wrong person. When he was speaking, perfect Malay. He's telling me in the field, okay, itu bulung dia lari sana. Dia selalu main-main tepi-tepi sana. So these are the little things I learned. And Lepa was a place that was out of the black area. I was able to see a lot of hand helmet and hornbills there. Okay, I had one of the highest population of Seladang in Malaysia. Okay, very healthy tiger population. And I bird watched in that area from 1978 to right up to 1984. And I tell you one thing, tigers are everywhere. You could hear them, you could see the bug marks, okay? And but during that period of time, I never saw a tiger. In fact, I tell you, I've never seen a wild tiger in my life. But many people who have, the loggers who have been there, they have seen. Some people have seen. But from the bug marks and from, their calls, we did very much around. That area is now all flat, it's all oil palm. All the salt licks are gone. And where the salt licks were, that's the oil palm factory mill. Well, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, what's this? Anyone? Not intermediate. Little England. Next one. This is the greater crescent, okay, in non-breeding plumage. So all these things, as you took photographs, you recognize them. Okay. So when you start training beginning birders, okay, when they're coming in for the first time, okay, don't frighten them. Okay, don't frighten them. My approach is very different because I'm a schoolmaster. I use my schoolmaster approach. Okay, so you have to instill in them confidence. Whatever mistakes they make, tell them, this is right, this is the way to do it, this is the way to put it around, this is not that way, and keep the interest sustained. Because if you constantly try to drag them, okay, they will lose interest. And there's some potentially good observers, who left because they couldn't just, stick people trying to tell them, is that what, does it go out like that? Some people, yeah. Is that what you call a pita? Is that what you call a pita? Okay, what pita is that? Okay, why blue ink? Why? And not, so you, when you speak in a very condescending manner, they will lose interest. Try and make it something enjoyable, okay? And, don't force them to write copious notes. Start up slowly. And in due course of time, they will improve. Okay, so I'm very fortunate to have sustained his interest for 50 years. Okay, and it is still growing. I still love the hobby. Okay, and probably I'm not one of those who likes to keep a live list. I've seen so many. How many have you seen? I've one who doesn't subscribe to that. Others who do, that's their privilege. But I rather, just enjoy for the fun of it, And the other thing is, of course, okay, I like it. I was very passionate, and I'm still passionate about it. But I never make it an obsession to the point that I neglect my other priorities. Especially when my child was growing up, I had to concentrate more on her, less of this. Okay, and she has she's 12 now, and she can identify all the common garden birds already. Okay, I've given her a pair of binoculars, but very importantly, if she doesn't become a bird watcher, I'm not going to shove it down her throat, so long as she learns to appreciate nature. So I think on that note, I will stop here. And if there are any questions you'd like to ask, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Alan, you used to use a hide sometimes. Was that for taking photographs or for looking at nests or something like that?
Well, yes, I used to have a hide principally to monitor nests, because birds tend to be very wary, especially when you are near the nests. So not too far away from the nest, and I used to scope to observe. And from time to time, I used to take pictures with the waders. I used to take pictures using the hide. Very useful, but can be very stuffy, especially. Yeah. Any other questions? find them there, but they're less. And basically what happened was that Fraser Hill, you found them on high pines. High pines, you know, they had this Pinus mercusi planted there, and there's a nest there as well. A very small population, but I saw them in 92, but I think after 1996, 1997, no one has seen them there for a long time. So it seems that probably that global warming. In fact, I asked Dr. Kwan. Dr. Kwan has given me a range of temperatures that Cameron Highlands wind chang throughout the years. You know, you can see that fluctuating. And at certain times of the year they're quite warm. But I would like really to go back. In fact, if I can get access to temperatures then the 1920s and 1930s, make a comparison. I'm writing up articles on ground movement and trying to link it with global warming. And in fact, Dr. Tej Wunkur sent me a link to a BBC program, Mountain Birds and Global Warming. I will WhatsApp it to you. It's very interesting. So I've not seen the brown group wing temperatures for a very long time. It's not been seen in Gunung Kali for a very long time. Now the best place, of course, the Gunung Chang becomes. But they are probably on Yongyap, Yongbla, places where people have not gone yet. Okay, but as far as Wangsa range is concerned, Guru Kali is the southernmost